le potevo. Ah.
Hi guys, we just need a few minutes before we can officially start. Thank you all for joining us. So, hi, my name is Effie. Welcome to the first event of CMS UK. This is an open day mainly directed for our medical student members and our junior doctors. Just going to go through some housekeeping rules before we begin. The open day will run over 3 hours. There are 2 10-minute breaks. For all those attendees who are not familiar with the Zoom platform, you can interact with us by the functions of raising hand, Q&A, and chat. For our panelists, just a quick reminder, ensure your microphone is mute when not speaking. Enjoy the day, and we look forward to your comments and questions. We will now kick off with our first speakers, the co-presidents of the Society, Dr. Galazis and Dr. Hajfilip.
Thank you, Effie, and hello, everyone. Very warm welcome, and thank you so much for attending the first ever event of the CMS UK. This is one of many events that we shall be organizing, and we hope to make those enjoyable and productive for everyone. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Nicolas Galazis. I'm originally from Nicosia, and I'm an ST6 trainee in obstetrics and gynecology in West London rotation. In this short introductory talk, I'd like to give you a bit of a background of the origins of the CMS UK and briefly outline the structure of the society. Following that, Savas will take over to present our aims and objectives, our plans for the near and distant future, as well as the challenges that lay ahead. Now, there's no doubt that Cypriots have played an important part in the provision of care and development of the NHS right from its start in 1948. We're currently very proud that some of our compatriots of previous generations have gained a national and international recognition for their advancements in medicine and surgery, all achieved in the UK and within this NHS. I'm also well aware and proud that some Cypriot doctors of my generation, of our generation, are already demonstrating extraordinary achievements and thus keeping up with our great tradition. Some of those friends, I'm very pleased to say, that are presenting for us today. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has no doubt been an eye-opener for all of us and has fundamentally changed what we do and how we do it. An example of that already is this virtual event, which will have otherwise been done live during normal circumstances. It has also been a catalyst for the establishment of the CMS UK. The pandemic has brought a lot of us together who we just realized that we had the same vision, the same goal, the establishment and the development of a society of Cypriot doctors, for Cypriot doctors in the UK to enhance collaboration and networking amongst us. We also realized that the time and circumstances were right for this to materialize. Savas will elaborate properly on the aims and objectives of the CMS, so I'm not going to go into that now. Now, just a little bit on the structure of the CMS UK. We're a non-profit organization. We launched in August, and we have over 100 registered members on our website. And of course, many more are following us through our social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. While we do estimate that there are about 400 Cypriot doctors and medical students practicing in the UK at the moment. We're certain that as we are starting our activity, more doctors will join, and we will be very grateful if everyone of you spreads the word so that we become a stronger and bigger community. Now, registration for the CMS is free for now, and we hope to be organizing 2 main events annually. The one event is what we're doing today, which is a medical student open day, and we will be aiming to be doing that every October when our students are back or have arrived in the UK. And the other one will be a formal scientific meeting or congress around springtime that may coincide with the annual general meeting as well of the organization. We also hope to organize many more informal social events that I think will be excellent opportunities and an excellent platform for us to meet each other and form strong professional and personal relationships. Before I hand over to Savas, because I won't be in the panel discussion later on, let me just say a big thank you to the organizing committee for this event, namely Drs. Mira Galazzi, Athina Mavru, Efi Mandrali, and our amazing medical students, Efthymia Theodoru and Marios Nikolaidis, without whom we wouldn't be coping in a virtual event. Thank you very much. I'll pass you over to Savas.
Great. Thank you very much, Nicolas, and thank you for starting us off, and a very warm welcome from me too for what's going to be quite an incredibly exciting event. My name is Savas Hadjifilippou. I'm currently an ST7 cardiology trainee in Northwest London, and I have a subspecialty interest in imaging and heart failure. And as Nicolas has already mentioned, our society was created and founded to bring together the hundreds of Cypriots that we know, both doctors and medical students in the UK, to help create a network which primarily works towards promoting good patient care and clinical and scientific excellence. Now, I know that sounds like a very broad, generic statement, but we feel that by organizing educational events, by creating a network where people can meet up, can talk, can interact, can share their own knowledge, experiences, we ultimately provide an opportunity and a platform for people to seek out more research, more learning, more training, to share the things that work as well as the things that don't work. We're still at our infancy, but we've already had a great response, both from medics and medical students who have joined, but also from other organizations who felt that and who found that we have a key part to play within society, not just in the UK, but also in Cyprus. And I think given the nature of our profession, we can contribute in a very positive way to both these societies. Now, aside from the open days that you're currently attending and the scientific meeting that Nicolas has already mentioned, we hope to build on these throughout the year and provide opportunities for you to take part, to engage, to share your own research experience, perhaps at scientific meetings, as well as key findings and key developments in the field of medicine. Now, there are challenges that lay ahead, and I'm slightly hesitant about using the B word, but in January, things will change for medical students. Medical students that want to apply to medicine, they may find that it becomes a bit more of a challenge, mainly financially as the UK moves outside the EU. And yet, as a society, I feel we can play a part to highlight the importance of the training here, how well things have been established, and how rigorous it can be, and important for people to gain from the wealth of experience that is available here in the UK. The other thing that's happened this year, as Nicolas has already mentioned, through COVID, our lives have changed, not every single one of us. For medics, most of my colleagues and friends have been redeployed to other places. As medical students, you'll find that your training has changed because you either now no longer attending face-to-face lectures and seeing everything virtually, or there are limits placed on your clinics. It does, however, come with certain advantages and a lot of positives that we need to look forward to. Today, as we talk, there are people who are attending and watching from England, from Scotland, from Wales, from Cyprus. And I think that's unique. It's something that didn't really happen regularly beforehand. People didn't appreciate the value of doing this. But you can attend from anywhere in the world. And going forward, we hope to engage within that process and make sure that all our events are accessible for everyone across the country and outside of the country, should they wish to and should they want to attend. So how can you contribute? I think the most important thing is register and spread the word. The more members that we have, the stronger we become, and the more knowledge and experience can be shared between people. As Nicolas has mentioned, we've already had about 100 registered members, and we estimate that's only a third of the number of doctors and medics and medical students we have in the UK. Right for us. We regularly publish on our website articles of varying topics, from training within the UK, getting the most out of medical school, getting the most out of the intercalated BSc. If you have an idea, just send it through to us. We'd be more than happy to hear from you. We'd love to put it on the website and showcase all the fantastic work that everyone's doing across the country. And finally, volunteer with us. For example, you could be a medical student representative at each of our UK medical schools. As we move into the second wave of COVID, essentially we have been asked to set up a response to this. And if you want to be part of this, please write to us, tell us. We'd love to engage as many people as possible throughout. Now, I'm going to finish there, and I'm going to wish you an enjoyable remainder of the day, and I hope that you find it as exciting and as useful and engaging as I'm sure I will. And please let us know of any feedback that you may have. Thank you.
You're muted.
Sorry, I'll start again. Thank you, Nicolas and Savas, for the introductory talk. We will now move on to our keynote speaker, Dr. Perla Eleftheriou. Dr. Eleftheriou is a consultant hematologist at University College London Hospital since 2015. Perla, over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me share my slides. Can you see my slides? Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Perla Eleftheriou. Thank you very much for the introduction from Effie, and thank you, Savas and Nicolas. So I'm going to take you on a virtual trip today through the history of the establishment of the Cypriots in the UK that we're all so massively proud of. This has to start with mentioning this achievement as a whole, followed by my personal journey as a medic in the UK. And based on this, I'll talk to you about the challenges but also joys outlined in front of you, and try to pass on to you a few very important mottos which I have personally adopted and embraced and follow on a daily basis. But of course, a reference again to the Cyprus Medical Society UK that we are very proud to have established with this amazing team and amazing, very competent people. The main objectives of this society is to inspire you guys, future generations, in benefiting from the excellent clinical and academic training in this country, in the UK, to support each other through the challenges that lay ahead and through the ever-evolving medicine, and to build long-standing connections that will benefit both countries. And how do we achieve that? Through collaboration and partnership with big organizations and institutions between the two countries. Special reference has to be made to the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK, who are behind this and support us. And not only the society, but also again, in the context of this awful pandemic, one has to mention that CMS and the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK, in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cyprus, are providing a great and a useful support platform for our UK Cypriot citizens in the UK, students and non-students. So I promised I was going to run through this history of the Cypriots in the UK, because this is a very forgotten and neglected and understated history, especially amongst people of our generation. We forget how we started and how we ended up being who we are as an organized community in this country. So Cyprus became a British colony in 1925. The first wave of Cypriot migration to this country was around 1920s and 1930s. Then after the Second World War, so late 1940s and throughout the 1950s, we had a second wave of migration of Cypriots to the UK. And Cypriots engaged in all different, very respectable jobs in the West End of London and Camden. They worked in textile factories, in catering, and undertook various manual labor jobs. The first examples of the Cypriot community were there, first to be seen. Greek language schools and churches were already started developing. In 1949, we had the establishment of the Cathedral of St. Sophia in Bayswater. Today, the Greek Orthodox Church has communities all over the UK. Another massive wave of Cypriots to Britain was observed late 50s, early 60s. The reasons for this: economic, to seek education, good education standards, and to escape the political situation in Cyprus. Cypriots managed to establish organizations and associations to preserve their identity. They wanted to excel in this country, but they wanted to preserve their roots, their identity, and to create a stronger sense of community. And they managed. Cypriot community began to settle. Over the 60s and 70s, Cypriots were seen in a wide range of professions, excelling. By 1972, the London Borough of Haringey had the highest concentration of Cypriots in the UK, approximately 40,000 out of the total of 200,000. After the Turkish invasion in 1974, 1/3 of Cypriots were now refugees, and many of them decided to move to the UK and join family members who had already moved prior to this. The National Federation of Cypriots in the UK was formed immediately after 1974, mainly to coordinate activities of Cypriots in the UK and to strengthen the efforts of Cypriots in this country. Cypriots are distinguished by their sense of community and their hard work spirits. They managed to integrate even more into the British society, but still maintaining their Cypriot identity and culture. Very important. Now, the second and third generation Cypriots are business owners, wealthy people, professionals, and they continue to make significant impact in a wide variety of different industries and fields in the UK. Since the UK joined the EU and later Cyprus in 2004, Cypriot businesses and professionals from both Cyprus and the UK have even expanded to the rest of Europe and collaborated further. And following the disastrous economic crisis in Cyprus in 2013, now a large number of younger first-generation Cypriots remained in the UK following their studies, and therefore we have now a growing first-generation community. There are numerous distinguished Cypriots of all generations in the UK, and it's impossible to mention all of them. There is particular representation in medicine. And just to mention that currently Cypriots living in the UK have reached levels of about 300,000. Sorry, there is a problem with changing my slides. I apologize. So Professor Nikolaidis, I want to mention two distinguished Cypriots, Professor Nikolaidis and Professor Tekis. These were two of the first distinguished Cypriots in the UK in the field of medicine. There are many more. Professor Nikolaidis is a pioneer in fetal medicine. He revolutionized in fetal medicine discoveries. He introduced the screening of chromosomal and structural abnormalities, has improved the screening and prevention of preeclampsia and premature birth, and allowed the development of fetal therapy. You can see on my busy slide that he won numerous awards and attended and gained numerous honorary doctorates in medicine. He is a very widely published professional, and he has supervised more than 50 doctors to obtain postgraduate degrees. Professor Paris Tekis, he started his journey in Nottingham University Medical School, postgraduate training later on is at St. Mark's Hospital, St. Mary's in London, Cleveland, Ohio in the States. He's a professor now of colorectal surgery and specializes in colorectal and minimally invasive surgery. And he's internationally respected for work in advanced rectal cancer and restorative surgery for inflammatory bowel disease. Again, you can see highly published, so huge publication record, and numerous awards. They're both dear friends and colleagues and inspirational models for me and for many others. So I'm now going to talk to you through my personal journey, as I promised you. So I consider myself being the figure where now the arrow points to. So slightly shrinking in my early 40s, multitasking 24 hours a day are not enough for me to fulfill my tasks. Family remains the most important thing for me. I hope my family considers that this is true. And as you can see, despite my many different interests and busy and full-time jobs, and being a full-time mom and wife, I'm always, and I want to consider that I'm almost always smiling. But yes, no. So I was born in this lovely city called Nicosia in the heart of Cyprus, that we all know. I have a brother who is a doctor in Sweden, and I attended simple neighborhood schools, both primary and secondary schools in Nicosia. For my journey, I have two people to think of and thank, first of all. These are my parents. My dad, whom I lost 9 months ago, was a very hardworking and passionate doctor. My mum is a scientist and academic, the most passionate person I've ever seen and I've ever met in my entire life about what she does. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart, from what they've taught me. They gave me the inspiration to go to medicine. I've inherited the passion to want to strive. They taught me how to be kind, to help, to try and make a difference, to teach, to dream, to set goals, to believe in me, but to be aware of my weaknesses as well, to question, but most importantly, to be humble and to be positive, whatever happens. So here I am. I decided to go into medicine for all the reasons I've just explained. Germany was and remains a very popular destination for medicine. And for many other reasons, I have ended up studying medicine in this wonderful city called Gießen in Germany at the University of Justus Liebig. This was a 6-year long course. I remember the first day of uni as a baby medic, toddled down to the School of Medicine, dwarfed behind the hulking mass of the main lecture building, nervously seated in a subterranean lecture theatre, and head doctors and the clinical dean. Each figure impressed upon me the great privilege that this profession would afford me. And I was ready to start. I would learn, I would grow, I would, believe me, snooze my alarm 7 times before deciding that a 7:45 a.m. pharmacology lecture was just not worth it. So you're imagining your journey from the start to the finish to be a straight line. In reality, your graph, your line will be the bottom one. Your real journey will be the one you have in mind. Your goals will be different than the one you have in mind. You have goals, and remember, you're in a demanding field in a foreign country. There will be nadirs and zeniths. Do what you feel passionate about. Take chances professionally, and don't be afraid to fail. So this is how you imagine your life to be. At the moment, you see a big tunnel or a train which leads to nowhere. Life at times will look like an endless tunnel, but be sure, a destination can be reached, and it is in your hands. Keep focused and have guts. Have a voice. Don't let anyone push you off the train, because the train will reach the destination and you will succeed. So after 6 years, I graduated with honors from Gießen and returned from Gießen, from Germany, to my roots back in Cyprus. I completed the pre-registration course, which is a 2-year course in Cyprus, which is what we call today the foundation year training. My mother, who has dedicated years of her life and still does in the field of thalassemia, was my greatest inspiration to follow this path. But I had also recognized early on the unmet need for treatment of thalassemia in my homeland and other hemoglobinopathies, not just thalassemia, and not just in my homeland, but everywhere in the world. So I decided that I could try to make a difference. and not only for my compatriots, but for everyone with these conditions. And I was attracted to the unique combination of laboratory work and patient care that the work of a hematologist entails. Therefore, I started my journey, or I continued my journey with a research project in the field of thalassemia, which involved a lot of laboratory work, and that was for a year at the Cyprus Institute of Neurology and Genetics. At the same time, I explored the best options how to pursue a career in hematology in the UK, because UK is a particularly prestigious destination for hematology. So after my research, I sat the PLAB test, because remember, Cyprus at the time was not part of the European Union, so we had to have to sit exams in order to undertake specialization training in the UK. Once those exams were passed, I applied and I was accepted for an MD research course at the University College in London. And I was taking my first steps up the ladder. I completed my research under Professor Porter, who is my other inspirational model in the field of medicine. I studied through this research project the effect and tolerability of different iron chelators in adult and pediatric patients with hemoglobinopathies and other rare transfusion-dependent anemias. I developed a special interest in the effect of iron chelators on the myocardial iron removal, and I presented my data both as posters and oral presentations in audiences which were, believe me, very crowded and very hostile. I won scholarships for researchers in hemoglobinopathies by the European School of Genetics and the Levendis Foundation Scholarship for Young Scientists for 3 consecutive years. I continued following the research fellowship. I continued with my senior house officer posts in medicine all across the North Central London hospitals for 2.5 years and became a member of the Royal College of Physicians in 2008, keeping always one foot in research and ensuring engagement in audits or oral and poster presentation performances. I then, through competitive entry, of course, gained a place on a hematology specialist registrar rotation at St. Bart's and the London. I completed finally my 5 years of training across both malignant and non-malignant hematology and went through a myriad of exams, which I finally passed and was called a qualified hematologist in 2013. And since 2014, I have been working at UCLH as a consultant hematologist and a lecturer at UCL. Within hematology, as you can see, hematology is a very broad field, and I've developed this subspecial interest of red cell disorders. So this includes the treatment of thalassemia and sickle cell disease and many other iron and red cell disorders. So now, 20 years after graduation, I'm an accomplished consultant at UCLH and honorary clinical senior lecturer at UCL and other universities. I'm a member of 2 Royal Colleges. I'm the clinical governance lead for red cell hematology at UCLH and a core member of the National Hemoglobinopathy Panel, which is a newly formed panel, and core member of the National COVID Working Group. And I practice both NHS and private hematology. I'm very much involved in research still, and I'm the principal and UK chief investigator in multiple pioneer and international clinical trials in the field of hemoglobinopathies. And I'm proud to say that I'm an investigator in the first ever UK gene therapy trial in thalassemia. I have published, I've presented, I've contributed to the writing of book chapters, national and international guidelines in hematology, and I serve as a scientific advisor of Thalassemia International Federation. I gained great joy from being a mentor and a clinical and educational supervisor of medical students, SHOs and SPRs in hematology. And I am an organizer and coordinator of international fellowships in hematology at UCLH. I have to say that I'm still massively enjoying my holidays. I'm looking forward to my holidays in Cyprus, but they're not all so much just relaxation at the moment. They are starting being a little bit mixed with business, and that's because I'm looking after both patients in both countries nowadays, and I'm trying to expand this further on. So after 20 years, I've managed to start from a tiny town on a tiny dot in the map and planted seeds in the UK, professional seeds in the UK, rest of the Europe, Africa, America, and Asia. Through my role as a core member of the National COVID Working Group for patients with hemoglobinopathies, I've not only been the co-author of important publications on this, but also I've been advising NHS England specifically for this matter. But my greatest achievement is my family. I'm married to a wonderful husband who is a surgeon and have two amazing and cheeky children, 13 and 8. To get this balance right is a challenge in itself. But if you get it right, you got it. You feel big. And I want to pass on a message to you guys. Don't you worry about these unprecedented times with COVID. Keep calm and carry on. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Don't worry, just be happy and be positive. Life as a medic in the UK, why is it so special? It is special. You gain access to world-leading medical education. UK universities are ranked among the world's best universities. UK is recognized worldwide for the high quality of research and teaching. Your qualification will be respected everywhere and by anyone. The UK is the second in the world for medical research. Second highest number for Nobel Prizes for medicine. Studying medicine in the UK is a chance to benefit from world-leading expertise in research-intensive establishments. If you're looking to go elsewhere to work after studying medicine, you will increase massively your employability if you studied in the UK. The most important language, international language of medical communities is English. It's a real, believe me, differentiator between job applicants. If you dream of practicing abroad or attending international seminars on global health issues, there you are. You've got the English, and there is no better way to learn medical English than studying medicine in the UK. It's not just about studying, it's about actually living. Remember the balance, life and work balance, life and studying balance. UK, it's a huge, amazing country, full of diversities. You will discover an entirely new country and culture. You'll explore, you'll have many opportunities to explore the country on your weekends, on your holidays, full of historic sites and national parks, bright lights and the city life. You're going to be able to enjoy all this. So, it doesn't come without any costs. It is going to be a cultural shock. It is for me sometimes even, still. Even figuring out how to navigate UK supermarkets and bus timetables with the odd bout of homesickness. But concentrate on the bold, ticked points that I have put on my slide. Always concentrate on the positives. You will have the opportunity to make friends from all corners of the world. You will learn to live independently in a foreign country. You will challenge yourself both academically and personally. A lot of us are away from our families. We're missing the sea, the beaches, the beautiful Mediterranean air. We are in big cities. We are anonymous when we start. In a competitive environment, gain is with hurdles. We are facing issues such as terrorism and now COVID, and it's not going to end here. But unique and endless career opportunities, center of cultural opportunities, appreciation of diversity and multi-ethnicity. You're not going to get this anywhere else. Skills of independence, If you start a family, and the majority of you will start a family at some point in the UK sooner or later, your children will attend the best schools. And don't forget that you're surrounded by organized Greek Cypriot and Greek communities. You will never feel alone. So what's it like then? Medicine is hard. Of course it is. There is a reason our stereotype complains all the time. After all this time, I've kept that romanticized view of medicine that I always had. If you can fight your way through the slog with your sanity and goodness intact, it is worth it in the end. It's more than being clever. It's about holding on to who you are and what you believe. Ups and downs in life are very important to keep us going, because a straight line, even in an ECG, means we are not alive. Don't force yourself to study. Make your mind for it, and you'll be half done. Don't complain, just work harder. There is an old IQ test with 9 dots, and trying to join the 9 dots without lifting your pencil. Don't be afraid to go outside this box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams. Have dreams with goals, life goals, yearly goals, monthly goals, daily goals. I try to give myself goals every day, as a mum, as a wife, as a doctor, as a friend. I don't always achieve, but I try. To achieve, you need discipline, consistency, and positivity. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a great doctor. Every man suffers pain, either the pain of hard work or the pain of regret. This wise man said, success is not for the lazy. Discipline yourself. The chapter you're learning today is going to save someone's life tomorrow, so pay attention. In life, you've got 2 choices. Do it now or regret it later. Have this as a motto for every day. I won't quit until I know that I truly tried. Physicians remain one of the most respected professions in our country. As such, you have great power. I call on you to use that power to influence change. Change for your patients, change for your communities, change for your colleagues, and for your profession. But you must take care of yourself first. Otherwise, you're no good to others. We must together, and now as a CMS, as a Cyprus Medical Society of the UK, work to change the culture so that we reward self-care. And my favorite cartoon character says, keep looking up. That's the secret of life. And together, we are stronger. Thank you.
Well, I hope you all feel as pumped as I feel right now. Thank you so much for this certainly very inspiring journey of Cyprus in the UK, but Bella, also a very impressive and motivational personal journey indeed. Our next speaker is by Dr. Miria Galazzi, who is a Senior Registrar in Medical Oncology at St. Bartholomew's Hospital in London. Miria.
Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. Hello, everyone, and thanks for attending today. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Miria Galazzi. I'm an anesthetics trainee in medical oncology, and I currently work in St. Bartholomew's Hospital. And within CMS, I'm the academic representative of our society. I'm very happy that we're able to hold this event, and especially to talk about mentoring, which is a topic that we, as a newly formed medical society, strongly believe in and want to build on, so that we are able to help each other to achieve our and your goals within the medical profession. We definitely appreciate how important it is to have people to help and support us along the way. I can imagine that a lot of you who are listening to this now have been inspired by examples and many people in your life that led you to choose medicine as a career, mainly because you want to have a positive impact in people's lives. And I'll just say it as well like that, maybe because you want to save lives, but it is one of the reasons that some of us join medicine. And I also hope that along the way, some of you can think of people that took an interest in your aspirations and helped you to reach some of your goals. And I can certainly think of lots of people that mentored me, from school back in Cyprus to medical school in London, and up until now, which is the final year of my training. And these are people that I still remain very close with, and I go to advice and guidance, and they do play a very, very important role in my life. So my first slide is just a picture, just to remind us that the concept of mentoring originates from Greek mythology. When Odysseus left for the Trojan War, he employed mentor, that was his name, to take care and guide his son Telemachus while he was away. And of course, the strategies of mentoring and how it's carried out at the moment, it's evolving and changing. But I hope that I will convince you that there's lots of benefits to it, and having a mentor during medical school and your subsequent career is very important. So mentoring at the moment in modern medicine is an important relationship that has the aim to achieve specific outcomes. And this schema just shows sort of some of the very important outcomes and achievements through mentoring. And I've just put there a definition that applies to me more, but there's more definitions about mentoring. So that sort of states that an experienced and highly regarded empathetic person, which is the mentor, guides an individual, which is a mentee, in the development of their own ideas, learning, and professional development. And I just want you to take that away and try to find your own definitions, but try to remember that it's a relationship that develops between two people. And within our career, mentoring is certainly split into two very important categories. There's career mentoring and there's psychosocial mentoring. And in addition, mentoring is something that can happen in an informal and very structured way, such as a university appointed tutor with the aim to guide someone to achieve specific objectives. But it can also be informal, and again, it just refers to a relationship that forms between two individuals under specific circumstances. It might just be in A&E recess, or it might be in someone's office talking about a specific signaling pathway. And if I was to speak for myself, it is these informal mentoring relationships that have been that have been the most invaluable to me, of those people who really truly took interest in what I wanted to do and gave me advice and guidance. In general, though, if I have to advise you on the topic, I would say that we should take advantage of both formats. as there are most likely different benefits and aims that can be achieved from each settings. So definitely formal and structured mentoring is very important. And having good mentors for both career and psychosocial mentoring in medicine is more important now than ever before. I'm just going to go through some of those points, but there's definitely lots of changes in how we deliver medical teaching and healthcare in the UK at the moment. It's very important to see data from the recent GMC surveys that show how the demographics of medical students and doctors in training are evolving. About a third of UK graduate doctors in training identify themselves as Black and from ethnic minorities. 58% of doctors in training are female, and almost a third of surgeons at the moment in training are female, and this is the profession where it showed the highest increase in female trainees over the last 5 years. And more doctors now work part-time or less than full-time. And I think for all of those 4 points that I mentioned here from this GMC survey, we can appreciate the importance of having good mentors to allow us to work in different ways. We also, during our training, undergo through multiple postgraduate examinations, lots of appraisals and lots of revalidation. And we are also expected within some specialties to undertake research and follow academia. And for all these points in these broad categories mentioned here, mentorship has a very, very important role to play. We all want to be successful and we all are achievers. Sometimes it doesn't depend just on our strengths, but the people who guide us through the process. And when it comes to academic medicine, I just wanted to share a slide. This is from the New England Journal of Medicine, and this is from a few years ago. But what we can see from statistics is that men still hold higher numbers of professor positions. However, over the years, definitely the proportion of women who are among first and senior authors in original research is significantly increasing. Having said that, women still remain the minority of authors, and partly this might be reflective of mentorship relationships within academic medicine, and we need to bear that in mind. Coming into burnout, inadequate mentorship, among lots of other reasons, has been also recognized as a main contributor to the burnout experienced by doctors around the world. And the overall incidence of burnout rates are increasing and have reached now an epidemic level. And burnout has devastating consequences in the doctors, in their families, their colleagues who work with them, their patients, and ultimately the healthcare system. And undoubtedly, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased the pressure and stress that healthcare professionals are under. To an extent, had an important impact in some people's training and also their personal circumstances. And so now, more than ever, it is important that clinicians look after their well-being and they also look after each other. Furthermore, I'm just showing a little bit more data from GMC about the progression of foundation year doctors in training at the completion of the program. And we can see that there's an increasing proportion of junior doctors who are making a decision to take a break from training. When we look at 2010, we can see that about 83.1% of those completing foundation program went straight into specialty training. But by 2011, and this was the year that I was finishing foundation training, it was 71.3% of foundation year doctors progressing into further specialty training. And unfortunately, when we look at the results in 2018, there's only 37.7% of doctors completing foundation program that go straight into specialty training. And there is no doubt that when we see some of the reasons leading into this, we will identify that if we have strong support mechanisms and mentoring schemes, more of us will remain into medicine and progress our careers. So there is no doubt that successful mentoring relationships can increase productivity and career satisfaction, augment professional identity and career progression, and increase self-confidence. In addition, it is a relationship that will benefit both the mentor and the mentee, and in lots of circumstances, it leads to lifelong strong relationships. So what I want sort of to leave you with, and just some take-home messages and points, I would just urge you to have a think whether you can identify mentors within your institutions from people that you've interacted with. That could be people that could take on and mentor you. Also think of what types of infrastructure is there available to support you to succeed. Is there any faculty? Are there any formal schemes? Any groups available in your universities or within your training programs? But also think very broadly. Your mentors don't have to always be medics, and they certainly don't have to be medics doing the same specialty as you want to do. But just think of people that are outside medicine. They can also guide you in lots of ways. And of course, I wouldn't be here in this event if I didn't want to mention that within the CMS UK network, we want to take this further and definitely contact us. There's lots of us. We have a network of many doctors, and we would like to help and support you. I'm just going to close by saying that most importantly, you need to know your strength and identify your weaknesses, but have goals and regularly assess who is around you. The people who are around you play a very, very big role in your career. It's a very long and hard journey, but it has lots of rewards at the end. I can promise you that. So thank you very much from me. I've just put my email there, but of course you can contact any of us through the Society's email address, and we're looking forward to speak to you in person. Thank you.
So thank you, Miria, for a very eye-opening, insightful, and encouraging talk about mentorship, and certainly a very important one. We now will go on and have a short break for 10 minutes, and we'll resume exactly in that time. See you shortly. Unmute. So welcome back, everyone. We will now commence with the specialty presentations. Our first speaker, a very good friend of mine, is Mr. Konstantinos Similis, who is a consultant in colorectal and general surgery in Addenbrooke's Cambridge University Hospitals. Off you go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Konstantinos Similis, and I am a consultant in general surgery and colorectal surgery at Cambridge University Hospitals. I will speak about surgery as a specialty. This is the summary of my slides. I would talk about my clinical experience as an example on what you expect from a surgical career. I will also talk about my academic interest in order to try and give you some ideas on how to improve your CV academically. I will talk about surgical training and the surgical career in general, and then I will finish by talking about the good and bad things of surgery. In 1999, I was awarded a British Chevening Scholarship to study medicine in the UK. In 2005, I completed my medical training in Imperial College School of Medicine, where I also completed a BSc in surgery and anesthesia with first-class honors. I completed my foundation training in London. Then from 2008 to 2010, I completed my core surgical training in East Midlands. And then from 2010 to 2017, I did my ST3 to ST8 surgical training, specialty and subspecialty training in London. In 2017, I was awarded the Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons of England, and also I was awarded the Certificate of Completion of Training in the UK for general surgery and colorectal surgery. In 2017, I was appointed as a consultant in Chelsea Westminster Trust, and in 2020, I was appointed as a consultant in colorectal surgery and general surgery at Cambridge University Hospitals. I think every stage of your medical career is important for your surgical practice in order to become good surgeons. In medical school, you collect valuable medical knowledge, and during your foundation training, you have the opportunity to apply that knowledge and build strong foundations in general medicine. I strongly believe that as a surgeon, you should have the general medicine knowledge and skills in order to be able to manage your surgical patients perioperatively. For example, a patient with respiratory failure or heart failure, ischemic heart disease, renal failure, you gain important knowledge to be able to manage these patients. For me, during my foundation training, my cardiology placement and my care of the elderly placement and my accident and emergency placement, all of these proved to be very useful in my surgical career. Then as a CT1, CT2, that's when you get your first taste of surgery. That's when you learn your basic surgical skills. That's when you start managing surgical patients perioperatively. You follow the instructions of your consultants, of your registrars. And also that's the time when you start, when you choose your specialty within surgery. As an ST3 to ST8, that's a big leap forward. That's where you build your advanced surgical skills. That's when you start becoming independent. You perform surgery independently and you take decisions independently. And also that's where you gain your subspecialty experience. Again, I use my experience as an example. My specialty is general surgery. My subspecialty is colorectal surgery. And within colorectal surgery, my subspecialty interest is colorectal cancer. And I have gained significant experience in minimally invasive surgery, including laparoscopic and robotic colorectal surgery, but also advanced malignancy, where I would perform total pelvic exenterations and multi-organ resection for advanced colorectal cancer. Academia is important for a surgeon. It's important, first of all, because as a surgeon, you need to be able to apply an evidence-based approach in the management of your patients. But also it's important because you need to have a competitive CV in order to be able to get a training post and also to be able to get a good consultant post. I completed a master's degree in healthcare ethics and law, which provided me with an in-depth analysis and extensive understanding of everyday moral and legal issues faced by a surgeon. I will advise you to do something similar out of the field of surgery. Do a postgraduate degree that will make you stand out from the crowd, and also will give you the opportunity to talk about something during your interview that no one else will be able to talk about. I also completed a postgraduate certificate in evidence-based healthcare, which allows me to apply an evidence-based management of my patients. And I completed an MD research degree, and my thesis was on the management of colorectal liver metastasis, which led to many publications and international presentations. Again, when you choose your MD thesis or your PhD thesis, try to choose a thesis which will be in the field of your specialty and subspecialty interest in surgery. Overall, I have published 66 peer-reviewed journal papers, 28 as first author. I have published in high impact factor journals, including the Annals of Surgery, which is the highest impact factor journal for surgery, BJS, British Journal of Surgery, Cochrane, American Journal of Gastroenterology. I have published more than 70 abstracts and 5 book chapters as first author, and I have given 42 international presentations and 18 national presentations. I regularly act as a reviewer for surgical journals, including the British Journal of Surgery, Surgical Endoscopy, Colorectal Disease, World Journal of Surgery. I also regularly act as a reviewer for research grant proposals, both in the UK and the Netherlands. I act as a supervisor for BSc students, but also students doing their MSc, their MD, and their PhD. I have been the principal investigator for multiple research grants, and my current research interests include novel rapid diagnostic techniques for colorectal cancer, the integration of technology into surgical practice, and evidence synthesis and advanced database analytics. This is a diagram of the surgical training. Most of the people that follow a surgical training will be in the top of this diagram. So you finish your med school, you complete your foundation training, then you apply for a CT1 training post. During CT training, you complete your MRCS, and then you apply for ST3. From ST3 to ST8, you complete your specialty and subspecialty training. You also have to be able to pass your FRCS exams. Then you get your certificate of completion of training, and then you apply for a consultant post. There are some specialties within surgery where you can have a run-through from ST1 to ST8, for example, neurosurgery and cardiothoracics. Also, some specialties as a pilot, they have ST run-through training from 1 to 8. That's including ENT and general surgery. For people interested in an academic career, there is an academic clinical fellowship, which then changes to an academic clinical lectureship, which allows you to have a run-through number from ST1 to ST8. As you can see from this diagram, surgical training is long, it's about 15 years. Nevertheless, this does not take into consideration other things. For example, many of you will do an intercalated BSc for 1 year. Many of you would choose to do a master's degree for 1 year, MD for 2 years, or PhD for 3 years. I would strongly advise anyone who's interested in a competitive career in surgery to have a postgraduate degree. That is something expected. Many of you will have maternity or paternity leave, and you may need added time to pass the MRCS or the FRCS exams. or you may need at the time to get a CT1 training post or an ST3 training post. After your surgical training, after you complete ST8, many surgeons go for a fellowship in their subspecialty interest, and they do a fellowship for 1 to 2 years in their subspecialty interest. I will talk about the bad and the good things of surgery. I'm going to start with the bad things. As we discussed, it is many years of training. It is demanding. And unfortunately, it requires personal sacrifices. It is long hours. You are the first in the hospital and the last one out. It is physically demanding, especially if you do long surgeries. It is extremely competitive, and it is a stressful environment. You have direct responsibility for your treatment outcome, and that includes surgical complications. Talent is important in surgery, but what is more important is the time you spend in theater to practice your skills. And unfortunately, there's no book where you can learn surgery. You need to spend long hours in theater to learn how to perform surgery. But the good things about surgery, I'm a proud surgeon, and I'm very excited to be a surgeon. And the good things about surgery, first, I put the last two bad things I mentioned about surgery. So I said talent is important, but most important is the time you spend in theater. And actually, that time spent in theater does pay off. It does make you a better surgeon. It does give you better surgical skills. Also, yes, you do have direct responsibility for the treatment outcome, but that also includes good outcomes. From your treatment, you can directly improve someone's life, quality of life, and even save their life. You can see an immediate result of the treatment you provide to patients. Yes, it is long hours, but also those long hours spent in theater is you're doing exactly what you love doing, and that time goes fast. And you may be doing a 10-hour operation, and when you finish, you're not feeling tired because you do what you love doing. It is an exciting specialty. There is an adrenaline rush. Decision-making is important in surgery, and I would say that's more important than having good surgical skills, because you need to know when to operate and what type of surgery to perform. And finally, disease in surgery is not something abstract. It's not a molecule or a virus that you cannot see. It's something that you can see and you can touch. And if you apply the skills and knowledge you learn from your surgical training, then you'll be able to remove the disease from the patient's body and improve their life. Thank you very much, and wish you all the best with your careers. Thank you.
A very impressive surgical portfolio indeed. Thank you, Mr. Similis, for the insightful talk on surgical training in the UK, as well as touching upon opportunities for advanced postgraduate training in the latter years. Our next speaker is Dr. Konstantinos Parisinos, who is a Senior Registrar in Gastroenterology at the Homerton Hospital. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much. I'm just about to, oh, hang on. Just trying to share my screen. There we go. Great. So I'm going to keep my video on just for a few seconds more because I'm in Cyprus and have very low bandwidth, I've discovered, but enough for you to realize that being a medical registrar, although by no means harder than anything else, definitely leads to, or is at least linked to, premature gray hair for a number of reasons. Okay, now I'm going to stop the video. So I'm going to talk about general medicine, gastroenterology, and hepatology. And for me to summarize it in 10 minutes is a little bit hard. I've been a registrar, or I've been a doctor for 12 years, and I have, I think, 12 slides, one for each year, where I'll talk a little bit about my personal experience. So this is the only slide that I will put in terms of what my pathway looked like. I always followed an academic track since I went to university in Edinburgh. So I graduated in 2009. And I also did a intercalated BSc in physiology back in Edinburgh. I was then awarded an academic foundation program there for 2 years, and then continued with the rest of my training, so core medical training and academic and clinical gastroenterology and hepatology in London. And this program is quite flexible, and you can always jump in and out of research, but it just so happened that in my story, I was mostly within an academic track. So this is the first 8 years of my life. On the left side is Little France, which is the campus at the University of Edinburgh. And on the right is the old college, and where the sort of the older medical school, old medical school was. And in terms of the foundation years, essentially that's the time where you can explore anything and everything about medicine. And I did 4 months of psychiatry, for example, in a tertiary psychiatry center that I had an amazing time, actually. I also did a little bit of surgery and realized it's more for Mr. Similis and not for me. And I also did a lot of medicine, gastroenterology, as well as other subspecialties like cardiology. And for my second foundation year, I've put some photos just to say what is what's really important about being a doctor in the UK. On the left is Professor Jack Satsangi, one of the most eminent academics in the UK, who was my mentor since I was a third-year medical student. And I do think that I would not be a gastroenterologist without him. And no matter how senior he was and how busy he was, the fact that he was always there for advice and mentoring, both academically, but also on a personal level, was hugely important. And apart from Jack, Dr. Lees was also my mentor during my years as a medical student, but also in my foundation years. And the fact that I was able to have 2 mentors, one a senior registrar, basically at the level that I am now, and a senior professor, I think gave me a very good balance. And in the middle, another amazing thing about being in the UK is the fact that you have a very diverse group of friends. You make friends for life, and you can also wear kilts every once in a while, which is great. After that, after my first 2 years, I decided to move to London, where I did core medical training in 2 of probably the ugliest buildings in London and in the UK, although amazing hospitals. So I did my CT1 in the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead, where I did 6 months of renal medicine, renal transplant medicine, and 6 months of liver and acute medicine as well. And then I moved to Northwick Park in Northwest London, where I did 3 more medical rotations. And within these core medical training years, a lot of doctors really start losing faith in the profession, because it's at this level where you're doing very long hours, but also maybe you don't have the autonomy and you're not making the decision-making process. So in terms of how much effort you're giving in terms of sheer service without making the big calls, it can become quite a strenuous time. But also, I think this is probably the most important years in becoming a good medical registrar, because this is where you can really get your hands dirty in all the different procedures, really take time and learn what it's like to be a good ward doctor and a good doctor on an acute medical take. And during this time, I also finished an MSc in public health at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And the only reason I did that was completely in my own time. And I just have an interest in academic medicine. And I feel I do have a need to always have some sort of research on the side. And I will talk a little bit about that later. So after these 2 years, I was successful in having an NIHR academic clinical fellowship and registrar number at Barts Health. And I spent the next 3 years at the Royal London Hospital and 1 year at Newham Hospital doing 9-month medical training and 3-month research. And it was this time when you do, as a gastroenterologist, start doing endoscopies and colonoscopies and learning that skill, but also learning your general gastroenterology and hepatology. And at the same time, I was doing research and trying to develop research skills and develop a proposal for a grant. And these is some pictures from the endoscopy department, us wearing scrubs on the right, the Royal London. Down left is at Newham University Hospital. And on the top left is all the medical team at Newham University Hospital spending our time at the local pub, which was basically every week. That's another point I would try to make. Don't avoid district general hospitals. You need the right mix to become a good doctor, and different hospitals offer really different experiences and different skills. With regards to my 3 years at East London, I started learning how to program and how to do analysis and genetic studies. And we developed with Professor Van Hill, who was one of my mentors for those 3 years, the biggest bioresource in individuals of Bangladeshi and Pakistani descent. And we were able to publish one paper in Science showing how these individuals, for very different reasons, have particular knockout mutations, and you can study very interesting genetics and lead to a very good understanding of biological mechanisms. So following these 3 years, I was able to apply and successfully join UCL Wellcome Trust program, which allowed me to complete my PhD in MRI imaging and genome-wide association studies of the liver. And these are a couple of my mentors who aren't gastroenterologists at all. So Harry Hemingway is the director of the Institute of Health Informatics, and Geraint Rees is the leader of this program, and he's the director of the School of Life Sciences at UCH. And they were able to guide me and allow me to have the skills and to develop the skills to answer a liver question, a gastroenterology question, while at the same time they have nothing to do with my specialty. So as Miria said, always look for mentors outside your specialty. They make you think in different ways. These are different pictures from my PhD, which I'm about to submit now over the next month or so. So I was able to publish in the Journal of Hepatology and publish in Gastroenterology, big genome-wide association studies. Overall, I think it was a very successful 3 years. During this time, you can also do things that you've always wanted to do, but being an NHS doctor doesn't allow you to have enough time to do it. So I was able to spend 2 months and take a sabbatical funded by the United European Gastroenterology Society. And I spent 2 months in Santiago de Compostela learning how to do an endoscopic ultrasound. I'm beginning to learn how to do ERCP, which is slightly more advanced procedures in gastroenterology, and also always have time to, well, a bit after the COVID pandemic is over, to try your best to go to meetings. You can make friends for life from all over the world. And this is last year, and we are in challenging times. So this is what my clinic looked like last year during the COVID pandemic. There was literally nobody there, and there was a phone next to me where I was spending most of my time talking to patients and doing virtual clinics. And I was the HPBA registrar with a couple of very good friends of mine, very busy job. And I took many emails from Miria as well, who would not leave me alone and wanted me to take care of most of her patients. So thanks, Miria, for that. But no, we had a great time at UCH last year. And yes, you definitely do work on holidays. So my New Year's Day was me scoping in the department. But again, you develop really close friendships, not only with doctors, but all the staff is hugely important. And the more senior you get, the more you understand that doctors is a very small wheel of a much bigger engine that's powered by healthcare professionals, but also managers and staff from across the board. So in terms of conclusions for me, why do I love gastroenterology? It combines high-risk procedures such as ERCP, EUS, advanced polypectomies. It combines amazing medicine, such as liver transplant medicine, but also interactions, if that's what you're interested in mental health and gut health, but also research into genetics, microbiome, nutrition that we know very little and have very little evidence for, but it's definitely a field that is very interesting. Definitely find mentors. It's very important, but find mentors not only for your academia, not only for your clinical stuff, but also for life. And there can be different mentors for these different things. Not every person has to give you all three. Definitely stay curious, and being in the NHS full time might make you think that you're only there to provide a service. You need to find other things in life to maintain curiosity, and research has done that for me. You need to have grit, and even during hard times, you know, keep passionate and know there's always good times to come. It's definitely a roller coaster. And also definitely prioritize your life outside of medicine as well. And I would say at least have a passion outside of medicine and outside your family, at least one thing for yourself. And for me, that's been music. So I have a record label and I have a studio with one of my friends, but it could be anything. Just keep it outside of medicine. And that's it. Thanks. I'm gonna stop this share.
Thank you, Dr. Palestinos. Yet another inspiring and impressive professional journey indeed. Despite being a medical registrar and premature aging, I'm glad to see that you still find time to go on holidays in Cyprus. Our next speaker is, for the third time, Konstantinos, Dr. Gotsabas, who is a consultant pediatrician at St. Mary's Hospital in London.
Hi, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you to the Society as well as to the panelists for some wonderful talks. I might do my talk in a slightly different way, but definitely the feeling is very mutual of what has been shared already about the profession is worth it. You need to find a balance, you need to find mentorship, and you need to form various bonds within work and outside. So I'm going to concentrate on pediatrics. Let me just try and share my screen. Can you see my screen? So we'll speak very quickly about pediatric training. We only have 10 minutes, so it's going to be very difficult. The first question is why pediatrics? And instead of me just babbling and reading through some notes, I think what I would like to do is just to play you this short video.
I don't think anyone would have imagined that we would have the year that we've been having.
And I think it will change practice for the better.
It is always an exciting time to enter paediatrics.
Because if we don't look after our children, then we're not going to have the healthy adults that we need to get not only the country, but the world back on its feet after this terrible pandemic.
For you and your team to be able to make that difference is amazing.
A bit of effort and going that extra mile will really help them become a better adult.
Will have lifelong impacts on that child and that family.
Pediatrics is a little misunderstood.
Pediatrics is a very tough speciality.
There are lots of challenging moments in pediatrics.
You don't really ever know what's going to walk through the door.
Where else can you go from being at the delivery and stabilisation of a preterm baby to seeing a teenager who's taken an overdose and then moving on to the resus room in A&E and looking after a severely unwell toddler for whom part of your treatment plan is calming down and watching Peppa Pig videos.
I will see something new every week and sometimes every day.
Not one day has been the same.
You can go from babies all the way up to very nearly adults, but then you're also dealing with parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters.
You can do absolutely anything in pediatrics.
The three words that best describe a paediatrician: fun, inquisitive, and kind.
I don't know what the next word is. Patient, measured, and good communication.
Proactive.
If you're kind to yourself and you're kind to others, you can't go too far wrong.
Because kids are wonderfully honest.
You can see most of your patients recovering in front of your eyes.
Seeing a smile on the child's face once they start recovering.
And that's a massive deal.
I would say don't lose your curiosity and your enthusiasm.
I thought that with big effort would come big reward, and that is certainly the case in paediatrics.
I mean, how can you be sad when you're an award called Rainbow?
Who in the field inspires me? Well, remember who you do the job for. You do the job for your patient.
You have to listen to them all. That really is the most rewarding thing.
I said paediatricians don't blow bubbles. I lied.
So, as you can see already, pediatric talks are completely different, I think. Now, to achieve a completion of pediatric curriculum in the UK, in order to take up a substantive honorary or fixed-term pediatric consultant appointment in the NHS, you're legally required to be listed on the specialist register. And there are several routes as to how you can get there, but each route requires that the Royal College of Pediatricians and Child Health to check that you're appropriately qualified. And if you're completing the curriculum in a UK training program, you will either be completing what is known as a CCT, which is a Certificate of Completion of Training, and therefore you will need to have a minimum of 4-year work time equivalent in UK approved training posts, or you might get what is known as a CSER CP, and this is if you've used non-UK training to demonstrate curriculum competencies. Now, 1 second. How and when can you apply for pediatric training? Well, you can apply after completing medical school and your foundation years, and this is known as the National Round 1. But you can also enter into training posts that are offered at levels of ST3 and ST4, and this is known as National Round 2. And the process, as with all other specialties, will be by competitive recruitment through an application and interview process. This is just a quick schematic that shows the current training program in pediatrics, which basically consists of 8 training years, ST1 to ST8. So it's a run-through program, and it is quite long. It's divided into 3 levels. Level 1 training will focus more on general pediatrics based in acute setting, as well as general neonates, and will consist of a minimum 24 months or normally 36 months. You need to pass your membership examination, which usually consists of 2 written papers and your clinical exam, in order to progress into level 2 training. And level 2 training will comprise of your core registrar years, where you are doing general pediatrics, general neonates, but also at least 6 months of community pediatrics. And again, that could be completed in a less amount of time, but the minimum allowed will be 12 months. Normally, you require 24 months for that. You then enter level 3 training, and you can either then apply for a subspecialty training grid post, or you will do general pediatrics, but with certain specialty rotations. And during the time, you could apply for what is known as a SPIN, which is a special interest module, which is what I did. So I graduated as a general pediatrician with a special interest in allergy in the end. There's various different pediatric subspecialties that are on offer at the moment in the UK. And there is a lot of flexibility within the program. There is the option of going out of program just for a break of training or for research. There is opportunity in pediatrics as well as other specialties, but especially in pediatrics, to work for less than full time, as well as a lot of research opportunities. However, in 2013, the Government Commission UK Shape of Training report came out, and it outlined changes that are required to medical training. And this is in order to ensure that the workforce in the future will meet the needs of the health service. The key principles from this report was that the majority of clinicians were to have core skills to deliver holistic care, including acute and scheduled care, that there should be increased flexibility to support changing trainees and service needs, and progression should be based on capability and not necessarily time. It also wants a focus on improved integrated and ambulatory care. And I think we're going to hear later on about GP practice, which is quite important. So the Royal College of Pediatricians and Child Health has embraced this report, and it viewed it as an opportunity to bring around changes to the training of pediatricians to make it more flexible. And in 2017, it formed a group to work and bring around the actions needed to implement these changes. And by 2022, it aims to roll out the new 2-level training program, which will consist of level 1 from ST1 to ST4. So again, requiring 4 years for that amount of time, where there's going to be a focus on general pediatrics and general neonates, as well as integrated care, public health, and mental health. It will allow more time for trainees to accomplish their MRC-PCH exams before entering then into level 2. And level 2 will then again either focus on general pediatric or towards a subspecialty. And it will consist of 3 years. So this whole program will cut down the training by 1 year. I'm gonna now move on. Now that I've laid out the current training program and the plans for the future program, I wanted to share with you my path from a personal point of view to show that, as previously mentioned by the other panelists, things don't always work as you've planned, and you will not always have your path laid out from the start. You won't know exactly what you do, and you know what? It's okay. So I entered UCL Medical School in 2003, and I graduated in 2009. When I graduated, by 1 point, I missed out on my first option, which was to stay in London and go where my other friends were also getting rotations. And I felt devastated. But I went to Nottingham, and in that, it was a blessing in disguise, because I was able to choose from the top rotations and get what I really wanted. I kind of knew I wanted to do pediatrics, and don't ask me why, but I opted not to choose pediatrics in order to ensure that I didn't want to do another specialty. So when the time came to apply for pediatrics, I was scared that because of not having a rotation, I would fail. But I applied and I entered the London School of Pediatrics, which was my first option, and actually entered with a very good ranking, which allowed me to choose the jobs that I wanted. And between ST1 and ST3, I had grueling but immensely satisfying and important rotations within Northwest London hospitals, where I didn't only gain invaluable skills and knowledge, but I also made some important meetings with people that will last me and help me later in my career. But then in ST4 and 5, I was allocated to go to Princess Alexandra Hospital for my co-registrar years. Princess Alexandra Hospital was not part of the London Deanery. It was part of the East of England Deanery. But back then, London Deanery had an agreement with them to send qualified registrars to help out. The problem of going there was that it was at times somewhat unsupported. And more importantly, I was the only trainee from London. And I felt a bit isolated. I wasn't able to get time off. I wasn't able to come down for RSM events. And I felt that I wasn't prepping for level 3 of my training. And at ST5, I was completely undecided of what path to follow for level 3 training. I didn't know whether I wanted to do general pediatrics or subspecialized. And in February 2016, I came back to St. Mary's to do a module on allergic airway disease. And I attended a lecture on pediatric asthma by Professor Gastovich. And then I met Bill Franklin. And if you don't know who Bill Franklin is, I will suggest that you go and Google him. He was the registrar of Alexander Fleming, and at the age of 102, he was still coming to give us lecture. Sadly, he has passed today. He has passed this year, and it's been a huge loss to allergy, as he is regarded as the grandfather of allergy in the UK. Both these two figures for me were amazing mentor and role models. And Adnan continues to be the one that I will always go for advice, and the one that I'm currently doing my research with. I knew immediately what I wanted to do. I wanted to subspecialize in pediatric allergy. So I entered the allergy masters at Imperial, but I had no allergy rotations. I was worried. I kept inquiring, I kept emailing people, I kept bothering people, and people helped. And finally, the opportunities came. And between ST6 to ST7, I was fortunate enough to get a rotation, to do a bone marrow transplant and immunology rotation at Great Ormond Street Hospital, where I gave it my all, and I managed to gain the award for Best Junior Doctor of the Year. I then was lucky enough to get a rotation in pediatric allergy at St. Thomas, and then a rotation in pediatric allergy at St. Mary's. But this was not laid out ahead of time. I was getting this just as I was about to enter the next rotation. And then at the final stretch in ST8, just before I'm about to finish, I was asked to choose between a respiratory rotation versus an infectious diseases job at St. Mary's Hospital for my last job. And I decided to choose the ID job because I had a feeling I needed to be close to St. Mary's. And the rest just followed. As soon as I CCT'd, I was planning to apply for a clinical fellowship. The consultants took me on the side and said, you need to apply for this locum consultant post. I said, I'm not ready. They said, no, you're ready. I applied, I got it. I then renewed it. And then now I've renewed it again. And I think the lesson here is that not everything will be laid out. Not everything will be easy. It's gonna be hard work. People will help you along the way. But if you persevere, and it's about the right timing and being in the right place. And to summarize, as a pediatrician, you will be faced with many tricky questions along the way. You will be faced with many difficult situations, but you will never be on your own. And it won't always be hard work, and there will be lots of fun times. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gotsavas. As an obstetrician and gynecologist myself, I am really glad your talk has shed light on the many joys, but also grueling challenges my pediatric colleagues face throughout their training. Our next speaker is Ms. Dimitra Georgiou, who is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Effie. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dimitra Georgiou. I'm working as a consultant in Chelsea and Westminster in obstetrics and gynecology. Give me a moment to share my screen, actually. So again, my presentation is slightly different. In the next 10 minutes, I'll try to give you an insight into obstetrics and gynecology and hopefully convince some of you to pursue a career in obs and gynae. So a career in obs and gynae can encompass a wide variety of different areas of medicine, making this specialty one of the most diverse areas in which to practice. It has often been described as a mixture of medicine and hands-on surgery. In obstetrics, we look after mothers and babies before, during, and after birth. In gynecology, we cover the female reproductive health outside of medicine. Overall, common link is women's health before, during, and after the reproductive years. However, our work is not confined to women, but also their partners and their family. As a consultant, you could work across a range of different areas. You can choose to do only obstetrics, or you can choose to do only gynecology with special interest in areas like laparoscopic surgery, oncology, or you can subspecialize even more in gynecology, in urogynecology, in reproductive medicine. Whatever you choose to do, a career in obstetrics and gynecology is flexible, is exciting and rewarding.
Dimitra, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a moment.
Yes.
I think we can't see your slides.
Can you not?
No, I wonder whether it might be worth trying to share again.
Let me try again.
Press enter after you share. Select.
Can you see now?
Yes, Thank you very much.
Sorry for this. I don't know what happened there.
If you just give me a moment to unmute, and then you can carry on. Thank you.
I'm sorry for that. You can see them now, yes?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So as I was saying, whatever you choose to do, a career in Obstetrician is flexible, exciting, and rewarding. And it's a privilege to look after a generally well young patients and at a happy time in their lives. This takes me to the next slide. Why did I choose to do Obstetrician? Well, for me, it was a decision I've taken much before my medical school, actually. During my high school year, I spent 2 weeks at the hospital as a work experience. And at the last day, actually, of the placement, I had the pleasure to watch a vaginal birth. And if you ask the majority of us, why did we enter Obstetrician, we'll all say that, well, I'll speak for myself, I was fascinated by the magic of birth and the happy ending for the couple, their family, and the staff. It's not always like this, but even when you have a bad outcome, you know, you find a ways to get through it. And it's such a welcoming specialty. You work in a multidisciplinary team. You can share bad experience, good experience with other people. And, you know, it's really, really fascinating. So why should you consider a career in Obstetrician? Obviously, for the above reasons I've described, but also it's not just about vaginal birth and happy endings. I won't lie to you, it hasn't been an easy journey. It's a hard training, it can be demanding, it can be stressful. You have quite heavy on-call duties, especially in obstetrics. You have irregular hours. You cannot decide when a baby decides to arrive or when a complication might arise in a delivery. But there are ways you can work around it. If you're worried about the regular hours or the stress and the demand of obstetrics, you could always limit your practice and do just gynecology. So despite these challenges, I have never regretted my decision to follow a career in Obstetrician. How did, you might consider, is an ONG career fit for you? Some of these skills are skills that you need to have to become a good obstetrician and gynecologist. The majority of them, you can gain them and master them throughout your training. Some of them, you already have them and you're not aware of them. How did I become an ONG specialist? I'm going to tell you about my career pathway. I graduated from medical school in Athens back in 2008. I knew I wanted to do Obstetrician, so I didn't know I wanted to be in UK or I wanted to pursue a career in UK. Following my graduation, I came to UK. Plan was to spend 2 weeks here just to get an insight into the practice in UK. I ended actually visiting my family back home after 13 months. Soon after my first 2 weeks of the attachment, I did an attachment in an obstetric unit in London. I was impressed by the well-structured program, by the amount of interesting cases I've seen. I was privileged to see some in utero surgery, and I decided I wanted to stay here. Therefore, I needed to find a way to get into the training. So what did I do before applying for ONG? I tried to get as much more experience as I could. I did an audit through during my attachments. I searched for opportunities. I went through the RCOG website and I looked what other opportunities I might have as a junior doctor. And actually, there are lots of opportunities if you look, like there are case reports you can submit and you can get prizes, which can boost your CV. I actually did enter the foundation training program. I entered straight into foundation year 2, and during my rotation Obstetrician, in most of the foundation year placements, mainly year 2, you will be able to do a placement in obstetrics and gynecology. Even if you don't, you still have the opportunity to visit the department and spend some time there. So I was lucky enough to spend some time in Obstetrician during my F2 year. And there I was able to show again my enthusiasm into the specialty by attending courses. I actually, every time I wouldn't say I had much of free time, but when I had a free time, I used to sit down with my seniors, I used to practice suturing. And by the end of my F2, they've seen that I was really interested and they had confidence in me, and I was able to even perform uncomplicated cesarean section. So the ONG specialist training is a national recruitment process. It's managed by the Health Education England Northwest. I've put the website so you can gain some more information. As I said, it's 7 years of training, and it's a run-through training program. Once you complete your training, you can enter the specialist register on GMC, and there are 2 ways of achieving that. The pathway on the left, where you have a national training number, it is an easy way, but even if you cannot, if you don't, for any reason, you don't get a national training number, you can still complete a training in obstetrics and gynecology and enter the specialist register through a different route. It's called Article 14. What that means that you still have to do your jobs in obstetrics and gynecology, and you have to show every year that you achieve the competencies that you are supposed to achieve in every year as you go through your training. So this is a slide actually from the College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists showing the progress throughout the training. So in the first 2 years, year ST1 and 2 is a basic training. So you can you can get into different areas of obstetrics, like go to antenatal clinics, go to gynecology clinics, do cesarean sections and complicated, do instrumental deliveries. And training that you're expected to have is basic, like opening and closing the abdomen. Before you enter into the registrar year, you need to pass your Part 1, the Part 1 MRCOG exam. And then in year 4 and 5, you are expected to be more independent, and your practice will be more independent. So you will do more complex surgery under indirect supervision. You will be more independent on labor ward, but always there will be a consultant on site. On year 6 and 7, you can still expand further your general skills in obstetrics and gynecology, but then you are able also to further expand your interest in different areas by doing either advanced skills training modules, and I've listed actually all of them here. Myself, I did advanced labor wards where you do high risk obstetrics. I did benign gynecology, I did open surgery, laparoscopic surgery, and hysteroscopic surgery, followed by a fellowship in minimal access surgery, more advanced laparoscopic surgery. Or you can enter a subspecialty program either during year 6 and 7 or after you got your CCT. And these are the 4 areas where you can do a subspecialty in obstetrics and gynecology. So you're expected to finish your training in about 7 years' time. I would say the majority of us don't finish in 7 years. You might take time off training to do either a degree or a PhD or some publications, some research, extra degrees that will boost your CV to make you out there to look good, so you're able to get a consultant job. Now, I put an example working week here in Obs and Gynae. I have to say that there is no typical day in ONG. You will go into work and every day is different. Every day on labor ward is a different day. But that's just to give you an idea, and as ST trainee, what you might be doing. As a consultant, it's not much different. It's still similar, depending on what you've chosen to do, with the difference that, you know, when you're on call, you don't have to be resident out of hours. In some posts, you still have to be resident, but in the majority of posts as a consultant, you don't have to be resident. You can be at home and you go to the hospital when you're called. Obstetrics is really busy, so sometimes you might have to spend a lot of hours there. But as one of the previous people mentioned, when you're in theatre, when you are so busy with emergency, you don't realize how time goes by. So lots of students, when they come to clinics, they will ask me, have you regretted doing Obs and Gynae? Well, everyone has good and bad days at work, but I have never felt I've made the wrong career choice. Obsengani is enjoyable, is dynamic, and is welcoming specialty. I highly recommend Obsengani, especially if you're down to earth, you have a sense of humor, and you're prepared to work hard. Miria gave a really good lecture actually about mentorship. I will say it's really, really important to have mentors, and as other people mentioned as well, not just for clinical experience, but just to share these bad experiences you might have, and share your pathway, give you advice how you can continue. So how did I get here? I would say through hard work, through dedication, and as I mentioned, having a mentor. And as one of my mentors said before, there is rarely a day that you don't feel that you have made a real difference to one of your patients. I have never regretted doing Obsengani, and I don't think I will, even though I'm still a junior consultant, and I'll definitely recommend it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Yu. A truly realistic and honest representation of an adrenaline pumping specialty, the ups and downs we face, and what we as senior trainees have to look forward to. Our next speaker is Dr. Solomi Solomou, who is a senior registrar in adult psychiatry at the Royal Free Hospital in London. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for the invitation and for the very interesting presentations. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So my talk today is about psychiatry as a specialty, and I'm going to talk about training at all levels, including foundation, core training, and specialty training. Personally, I'm currently a specialty trainee at Royal Free Hospital, where I work with the liaison team there. But before we move on, I just wanted to share a couple of brief videos.
Sorry to interrupt. Dr. Solomou, we cannot actually see your video. I don't know.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Fine. So I'll just keep it for now. I wanted to share a couple of videos.
Try one more time to share it, Maria.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it's not sharing.
Like stop sharing and then click again and select the browser or the video file.
Okay, sure, okay.
Thank you.
That's right. Okay, hope it works this time. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to share these two videos just to give an example of what kind of situations we come across as psychiatrists. And it was this complexity of psychiatry and the fact that every case is completely different that intrigued me into getting into this specialty. So when I finished medical school, I deliberately chose a training foundation program that included the psychiatry rotation. So this is my advice. If you're interested in psychiatry, it's good to get some experience as an F1 or as an F2 doctor. This could be either in inpatient psychiatric wards, in clinics, or even in liaison services in medical hospitals as well. If you feel that psychiatry is for you, there are opportunities to apply for core training twice a year. Recruitment normally takes place in August and February. And you will need to do an online assessment, which is called multi-specialty recruitment assessment, before having your actual interview. The way the interview is structured is you get two stations. One is a clinical skills station, where normally you get an actor, and the actor has some sort of mental illness, and you have to sort of interview the actor with the interviewer assessing you. And the other station is a portfolio station about about things that you've done in the past. And the way the training is structured, you get to do 3 years of core training, unless you wish to do child and adolescent psychiatry, where you can do it as a run-through if you wish. Otherwise, you can do the traditional core training and then apply for camps later on. And the good thing about the core training is that you get the variety of options. The rotations are 6-month rotations. If you're interested in a specifically area of psychiatry, you can choose only rotations relating to that area. What I did, I wanted to do a variety of rotations. So I worked in adult, old age, liaison, child and adolescent, learning difficulties, as well as eating disorders. And if you are even interested in other kinds, you can do forensics, like neuropsychiatry, perinatal, and psychotherapy as well. Before you move on to the specialist training, you have to complete the MRC Psych exams, which are three exams. The first 2, paper A and paper B, are multiple choice questions. And the last one is a clinical assessment of skills and competencies. That normally you have various scenarios with actors, where you have to take history, explain management plans, or even do medical examinations as well, because those are part of psychiatry also. And now with COVID, things are changing a bit. So I'm aware that the last exam was actually done online rather than in person. So there have been some modifications because of the COVID situation. If you want to apply either for specialist or core training, you can do that through the Oriel website. So if you Google Oriel NHS, that's the website where you apply from. You will be asked to score yourself based on things that you've done before. So I've just listed here what the examiners normally look at. And even if you don't give yourself the points that you wish you deserve, during the interview, the interviewers may give you even more points if they feel that you've fulfilled the criteria. So the structure for specialist training, normally you get 1 clinical station and 1 portfolio station if you're applying for a single specialty. So I will talk about that in a bit. If you want to do dual specialty, you get 2 clinical scenarios and 1 portfolio. So just an example to show how they score it. The portfolio score is 85 points and the scenarios are 30 points each. So you have the option to either apply for a single specialty or for a dual specialty. So these are the available single specialties that you can do. They normally the training normally lasts for three years. But if you want to get two specialties, these are the possible combination. What I'm doing at the moment, I'm doing the first one, which is general psychiatry and psychiatry of old age, and that takes 4 years in total. But there are other combinations, as you can see below, if you're interested in specific types of psychiatry. And I wanted to mention at the end that there are also opportunities to do an academic clinical fellowship. You can do that either as a core trainee or as a specialist trainee, and it is expected that you will be taking a break to apply for PhD training. But the good thing about psychiatry is that you, as a specialist trainee, you are also given 1 day a week to do your own special interest. So you can either spend that day in a particular clinic or ward that you prefer, or you can choose to dedicate that day into getting a degree, like a master's or even a PhD, if you're that motivated, and you can spend that day doing research. I'm happy to answer any questions during the Q&A panel later on. But if any of you would like to contact me in person as well, I'm happy to answer any specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Solomon. Psychiatry has always been a somewhat mysterious specialty, at least to me. So thank you for unraveling the training program and what it involves. We now have our final presentation, and a very important one indeed, which is by Dr. Nadasa Kyriakou-Christofidis, who is a GP in Northwest London. Welcome. If you could just give us a couple of minutes to sort out the presentation for Dr. Nadasa. If you could just...
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, lovely, thank you.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Even in central London, you can have internet problems. So it's not only in Cyprus, even with the highest fiber, of course, at the time when you're doing a presentation, it just stops working. So I might have to stop my video in case it interrupts, because I'm working from my phone Wi-Fi internet now. So apologies for that and for the delay. So can you hear me?
So we can hear you, but we can't see your slides.
Can you see my slides now?
Now we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Right. So hi everyone, I'm Natasha Christofidis. I'm a GP in London. First, thank you to the Cyprus Mental Society for inviting me to participate in this great event, and great speeches from all the speakers. It's fantastic to be given the opportunity to promote general practice and hopefully make some of you interested in general practice, especially as it's now also a career opportunity in Cyprus. With the new health system. So a bit about me to start with. So I completed my medical training at Royal Free and University College Medical School in 2008, and I did an intercalated BSc in speech science communication, and went on to complete my GP training at St Mary's VTS in London. And since then I've been working as a GP in London. So as a salaried GP, in my training, I was very lucky from my foundation years to have a mix of various specialties. I did general medicine, general surgery, A&E, and I was extremely lucky in my GP training. In addition to my GP roles, I had hospital rotations like obs and gynae, psychiatry, pediatrics, which is really important in building your foundations for general practice later on. I had a special interest in pediatrics, so I went on to acquire the diploma of child health, and actually in my previous salaried role I was able to run weekly clinics for children, and touching from the integrated care that Dr. Quatsabas mentioned earlier, I worked along a pediatric consultant and we run monthly clinics together in the practice. Also, I came to develop an interest in type 2 diabetes, and with further training, we're able to take care of many of our type 2 diabetes in the community alongside our secondary care consultants. I was given the opportunity to do a lot of medical school teaching in the practice for a couple of years, and actually a few years ago I was given the opportunity to work on a temporary contract with Central London CCGs. So CCGs, clinical commissioning groups, are clinically led statutory NHS bodies responsible for planning and commissioning health services in the local area. And this project, we worked along paediatric mental health services, children and young people and their families, to evaluate the current paediatric mental health services and see how we could improve them. So many opportunities in general practice. So I like this quote from the Royal College chair from last year. So being a GP is a job like no other. We're often the first people that our patients turn to for help, most often at the most difficult times. You're guaranteed to learn something new every day in general practice, be that a rare condition, a treatment, or something about the patient with whom you might have known for a long time. So GPs are medical generalists. They become experts on their patients by building relationships, understanding their needs, and treating patients throughout their lives. And like other areas of medicine, we deal with patients from all ages, from babies to elderly patients. And we get to care for the family as a whole, which makes it ever so special. Now, I'm assuming most of you are familiar with the setup of general practice, but some people might not. So I just thought I'd briefly talk about my GP surgery where I work. So it's a building a practice in the community. My current team has around 9,000 registered patients of all ages. The team is made up of 7 doctors. 3 of the doctors are partners, so they have a more managerial role in the practice, and 4 salaried doctors, and I'm one of them. We've got 2 nurses, healthcare assistant, clinical pharmacists, and phlebotomists, and admin and reception staff. So we usually open from 7:30 to 6:30 weekdays, and a full day of salaried GP includes seeing around 40 patients in a day of 10-minute appointments, plus any other home visits that we might need to do for our housebound patients. We then deal with a lot of communication coming from hospital, abnormal blood tests, prescription requests, and the list goes on and on. So as a GP, you're usually the first point of contact with the NHS for most people in their communities, and we manage a wide range of health problems. So I just thought I'd give you a snap of general practice. So in a morning clinic, you could see a 30-year-old with acute back pain, a 50-year-old lady with a new breast lump, a 36-year-old trying to conceive and failing and being very upset, a pregnant lady for her 30-week antenatal checkup, a 15-year-old with an acute abdomen that you need to talk to the surgeons, asking them to review, a 25-year-old who has a history of depression who is reporting suicidal thoughts that you need to support, a 70-year-old with new onset shortness of breath on exertion, a 12-year-old girl with a viral infection which is actually very wheezy and in respiratory distress, needing a nebulizer and an urgent dispatch off to hospital, and then your 6-week baby for their routine review, and the list goes on and on, keeping us on our feet. So some consultations can be straightforward, others can be quite complex. So some patients it's the first time you meet, and others you know well and they're frequent presenters. Unlike the hospital setting, we don't have blood tests straight away, we don't have urgent investigation straight away. So you need to make that decision about your patient there and then, based solely on your history and examination, which comes with its challenges. If you're stuck, of course, you can get some support from your colleagues or call secondary care doctors, which most of the times are very happy to give advice or review patients if needed. GPs have a key role in deciding how health and social services should be coordinated with the aim to deliver safe and effective, accessible care to our patients in our communities, and we face a lot of challenges, like everyone, especially COVID has been a big challenge that we've all had to face. Trying to get the good out of COVID-19, I think it's made us adopt better to technology in our everyday practice. We've been able to continue providing our services through remote consultations. Of course, we do see patients when we feel that they need a further examination, a face-to-face review, but it's given sort of the patients a better understanding and the best possibilities of using remote technology. So as a GP, you can design a career to suit you, and I guess this is something that draws many people into general practice. You can move between different roles. You can build flexible working patterns around the needs of your patients and your personal life, and I think it's been touched upon in most of the speeches that it's very important to maintain a work balance. Work-family balance, and you can do that in general practice. But if I may note, general practice is different to hospital medicine, but it's not easier. It has its different challenges. So you wouldn't go into general practice because it's thought to be easier. You really need to enjoy this type of medicine in order to be happy practicing this type of medicine. So I would recommend, if you are interested, to seek doing general practice in your foundation years, because if you love general practice, you enjoy it from the first minute you have your first clinic. So a day in the GP though can be very interesting, but quite stressful, and it can be quite hard to do full time. So luckily there are many other opportunities to choose from to suit one's personality, experience and interests, and you could do that alongside. So as in your clinical role, you could be either a partner, so there's a lot of work around the management of the practice as you're running a business actually. Then you could be a salary GP on a contract, or then a locum GP where you do ad hoc clinics in various practices, and then you have the opportunity to work around various populations and various teams. And alongside that, you could develop an interest in other areas like dermatology, minor surgery, cardiology, family planning, sexual health, and you can lead in clinical assistant jobs in secondary care. You could do medical teaching and aspire the next generation of doctors, be GP trainers and appraisers. You could lead projects like the one I mentioned earlier for CCGs if you've got passion, knowledge and skills, and if you like to drive change, and if you want to make changes to the NHS and make the care better for your patients, then there are a lot of opportunities there. You can work as a GP in A&E or out of hours. You could work in a hospice. You could do medical legal advice. There's lots of possibilities and work to be done alongside the clinical everyday role. So if I actually made anyone interested, so how you then become a GP, so following your medical school degree and your foundation years, there's a national recruitment program. You have to undertake a computer-based assessment, and based on your performance and your rank, you're then assigned a GP post, training post. The training post is 3 years, so 18 months need to be in hospital and 18 months are in general practice. The 18 months of hospital posts can vary from rotation to rotation. I think one of the main reasons St Mary's was one of my top BTS schemes is that it gave an option of a lot of specialty roles like obs and gynae, psychiatry, pediatrics, palliative care, and I think it's important to have as much exposure to the various specialties before you go into general practice. Then the two, then in order that there's certain components, you have to do the applied knowledge test, a clinical skills assessment like an OSCE, and then workplace based assessments over the 3 years. And once these are all completed successfully, you gain entry on the General Practice Specialist Register and you can work away. So short and sweet. Thank you very much.
Nadasa, thank you very much for shedding light on what is truly a diverse and challenging specialty on a daily basis. I'm sure we are all grateful to our GP colleagues for appropriately guiding our patients to navigate the complex tertiary referral pathways of the NHS and to see the right specialist. Thank you to all our speakers, really fantastic presentations. We will now take a short 5-minute break and resume to answer any questions that you may have. For those on Zoom, please use the Q&A function. For our Facebook viewers, you can message us directly or comment below the link. See you shortly.
So welcome back, everyone. We're now on our panelist session, and I can see your cameras are slowly all turning back on. Welcome back. We're going to kick off with our first question. Please go ahead, Miriam.
Hello, hi everyone. So yeah, thank you for all the presentations, to all the friends and colleagues. And thank you for everyone who's attended and who's put out some questions there for us. I'm just going to start with some of those, and we can, you know, whoever feels that they want to take one and answer one, just feel free. I'm not going to allocate them to specific people. Did you always know that you wanted to do the specialty that you're doing?
I think, Miriam, you can answer that one for me, because you knew what I wanted to do.
I didn't hear this very well.
Well, should I take this one? So I always wanted to do pediatrics. And even in medical school, as Miriam remembers, we did a rotation together in a DGH pediatrics where we had to stay at the hospital. And I was really keen. It was the subject that I did the best in university. But as FY1 and FY2, I did choose on purpose not to have rotations pediatrics to ensure that none of the other ones will gain me. And I liked them. I mean, even vascular surgery, and I was never a surgical person. But I really liked my vascular surgeons, and I enjoyed orthopedics as well. I wasn't great in theater, so I knew that I wasn't for surgery, but it convinced me that I wanted to do peds. And I remember when they asked me why peds, and then they said to me, why you? And I still remember I just stopped, and then I looked at her, I said, well, if you don't get me, I'll come back next year. Yeah, so I knew. Yeah.
I have to say that I didn't always know that I wanted to do hematology. In actual fact, I was considering myself as a surgeon for many reasons. And then up until I went back from uni to Cyprus and started looking at the needs that we had as an island. We have many surgeons. I mean, all specialties are fascinating. But we have many surgeons, we have many cardiologists, we have many pediatricians, sorry guys, but we don't have hematologists. We don't have any hematologists, very few. And especially with an interest in this problem that is huge, you know, in Cyprus, so thalassemia. So this really what inspired me. And I want to say that because it's absolutely fine for medical students to be lost at the moment and not to have, you know, made their mind up as to what they are going to do. So don't listen to, you know, some of us go into medicine with a very straight mind, very straight, confirmed sort of ideas what they want to become. But the majority of us have absolutely no clue whatsoever. And then you change your mind 100 times. And so as long as you decide what at some point what you have to do and you put passion in it, and sometimes you might not even be entirely certain that what you think you've chosen is the right thing for you, or you're 100% sure. But as long as you put your passion and 100% effort, you're going to make it and you're going to love it.
If I can also add something following Perla's note. So I think if I was asked 12 years ago or as a medical student, I would have said pediatrics. And as Perla said in her presentation earlier, so life is not a straight line. There's ups and there's down, and you change as a person over the years. And I think when I came to decide what I would apply for, pediatrics, unfortunately, or the training of pediatrics wouldn't suit me at the time. And then I said, what other, and I really liked GP from my medical school placements and my FY, and I said, what will suit me as a personality? And general practice it was. I enjoyed it, and I did find a way to incorporate my love for pediatrics through working alongside pediatricians and dragging it into primary care. So you can always make lemonade from lemons.
Thank you everyone. And I totally agree. And actually what you said, Natasha, you know, the fact that you need to think about your personality and think about what suits the kind of life that you want to have. It's exciting to be working, and work is a very important part of our lives. But when we're training, it also happens in our late 20s and early 30s, and that's a time when lots of other things happen in life, and we just need to make sure that what we want to do as a career kind of fits our priorities there as well. Okay, I'll just come up with another question that came from the Q&A. So, is it possible to complete the foundation year in 1 year rather than go through FY1 and FY2?
I can answer this question. So if you are graduating from a medical school within the UK, you will need to do foundation year 1 and foundation year 2. After foundation year 1, during foundation year 1, you are registered. You've got a provisional registration with GMC. And following your completion of F1, you get full registration with GMC. If you're coming from a medical school outside the UK, from particular countries like, as far as I know, Greece, Prague, you cannot move to those. You have full registration with GMC as soon as you graduate, and you can enter F2 directly without doing an F1. I don't know if anyone else wants to answer.
Well, I can make a comment because, as I said, I came from Greece and I didn't do an F1. I got a full specialist registration. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, I can hear that Dimitra is also trying to speak though. Are we listening to her?
Yep.
So I can talk about it as well, because as I said, I graduated from medical school in Athens. So when I came here, I didn't do foundation year in 1 and 2. I went straight into F2. And, you know, it was very easy for me. I wouldn't say very easy for me. It was difficult, but it was, you know, an easy way to then go through my specialty training. I have actually included in one of my slides. Let me see if I can find it and share the screen again. The different pathways that you can have. Can you see it? So the slide on the left actually does talk about international medical graduates. So if you've done a year of internship overseas, like for me, I did 6 years of medical school in Athens, one of them classed as an internship. Then when I came here, I went straight into foundation year 2. So you can still do that, or what you can do, there is something called widening access to specialty training. It's a year that you can do nowadays before entering the specialty training. So trainees coming from abroad, they can do this actually. Or you can spend a year in acute specialty, not necessarily do an F2, but still get the competences you need, because when you finish foundation, before applying for a specialty program, you need to have competences or show somehow that you complete some basic competences.
I mean, if you come straight from Cyprus, and obviously when I came, that was, I don't know, more than 15 years ago. As I said, I did the foundation, the pre-registration year in Cyprus, and then I came. Yes, I started with research, but if I had to start with the medical training, I would have gone straight into the SHO year 1. So I think this still applies. So if you do your pre-registration in Cyprus, this is the equivalent of FY1 and FY2. I think this still is the case, and you might be able to go straight into the IMT training, because now it's called IMT rather than core medical training, CMT. But anyway, yes, I think that's something that it's very individualized as well. So it very much depends on what you know, your circumstances are. You're going to have to explore it on a case-by-case basis.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, totally. But yeah, it's actually good that I saw Dimitra's slide, because I didn't sort of have a look at the 2 different pathways that you had there. So that's really useful, and maybe we can sort of signpost to people where they can find that. So just another question coming through. So I would like to ask how you balance work and social life as a doctor, especially with specialties that have on calls, night, etc. Anyone who wants to take that question?
I mean, it is, I mean, I think 2 or 3 of my slides were on this, because it is a subject very close to my heart. I think it is not easy. Whether you are in a relationship, whether you are married or not, whether you have children or not, you still have a social life, and the circumstances of your social life will be different depending on who you have around you. It does become more complex when you have people depending on you, so other people such as children. But it is all about, it is a skill to master. Nothing is impossible, it is difficult, but we go into this profession because we have certain personalities. We can discipline ourselves, we are hardworking, we know how to organize things. And these are skills that you bring into your life. They are, you know, genetic, inherited, they are acquired through your early life years, but they will improve further as your circumstances change and as you grow older. It is difficult, but you've got to make sure that you find the balance. Otherwise, you will lose one or the other, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so another question. I am an ST1 in pediatrics in Scotland. I was lucky enough as a student to find a driven consultant that really wanted to finish a project and submit it. Since then, whilst there's always a pressure and need for audits, QI, etc., it is very difficult to find a good mentor. Are you planning to make a list of potential consultants or registrars we can get in contact with? The majority of you are based in London, which may not be very easy. I mean, I agree with the point, and I understand how sometimes you find the right people along the way, and some of those people might sort of take you on with them, and that rotation might be very fruitful and very rewarding, and some other times it becomes a little bit more difficult. I think from the talk that I gave, we certainly want to hear from you. We certainly, we would like to get sort of emails and questions, and we can always try and see if there are people within this community at least that will be interested to mentor and help. But I think, like I said in my presentation as well, I think it's a combination of having people that you work with on a day-to-day basis. They know your skills and they are supervising your clinical training. But in addition, you can always contact us, and this is something that we are very interested in building on through this society. Sorry, I'm just going through some more of the other questions. Have you ever had second thoughts for choosing a medical career during or after your training? I don't know who wants to answer that.
I can answer this one to start off with. I think my parents will testify to the fact that even at ST7, I still occasionally call them up and say, I'm just not sure I'm doing the right thing. I should probably be something else, do something different. I think it's entirely normal, and it's part of training, and it's part of what we do, and especially when days are tough, when you've had a long shift, you've had a difficult conversation with a patient that hasn't gone the way you wanted. I think it's entirely expected and normal, and the process of doubting what you do, I think, is quite therapeutic and helpful. So yes is the answer, and definitely allow it to come out, talk to people. The grass is never greener on the other side, despite what you may think. And when you're seeing the surgical reg and the mess relaxing whilst you're the med reg rushed off your feet seeing patients in A&E, and you think your life is miserable and theirs is better, actually, you don't know what they've just been through for the last 10 hours. So yeah.
I also want to make a point here as well, if you guys can still hear me. What I would say is, one of the bad things we have as Cypriots in general, we have a lot of good things, but one of the bad things is that we are quite linear thinkers. And we always think that if you study something, this is what you have to do for the rest of your life. And if you don't do it, you're a failure. But actually, the skills you have from a medical degree or from the first few years of a medical job can make you a world leader in pretty much anything else you might decide to do in the future. And there are medics that are now leading politicians, they are leading startup companies, or they are great academics, or they work in editor journals, or they're musicians, or they do everything else. So it's very therapeutic. It's very healthy to doubt your career choices. And if you're overall still happy, definitely persevere. But if you also think that you're wanting to explore something else, that's also still fine. And medics in general have skills that could be applied in every other job I think there is.
Totally, yeah, I agree with you, Costantino, and yeah, I think you're an example of someone that since the time I've known you, you've always kind of had interest for lots of different things, and actually, as friends, you know, you're always someone who would inspire me from your interests and from the things that you wanted to do. So definitely, I agree with you. Just another question that came through. I think this is a good one as well. Is it possible to switch to an academic path during the CT years if you do not complete an academic foundation program? If so, how can we work towards that?
I can take that question. As you can see from my presentation, I've never held an academic post, but I've got a very strong academic CV. So to the question whether from a clinical career you can change to an academic career, yes, you can do that at any stage. The sooner you do it, the easier it is. So if you apply for an ACF post and then follow the ACF is academic clinical fellowship, then you follow the ACF post with an ACL post, academic clinical lectureship, and then you go to an academic pathway as a clinical lecturer, then you become a reader, then you become a professor. But if you only follow a clinical pathway, then you have a very strong academic record, which includes a postgraduate degree, multiple publications, presentations, teaching is important, then you can enter this pathway at any of the stages I mentioned. So if you didn't get an ACF, you can apply for an ACL. If you did not do ACF or ACL and you finish your surgical training or any medical training, then you can apply for a clinical lecturer post and you compete with any other person that finished academic training. And you can join the academic pathway at any point you want. But as I said, the earlier you join the academic pathway, so from ACF onwards, it will be easier for you because it will open for you more opportunities down the academic pathway.
I can contribute to this as well, actually. In terms of run-through specialties like obstetrics and gynecology, you can take time out of program for research that allows you to enter that academic pathway and complete your specialty training in a job which combines research along with the rest of your clinical training. So it's worth looking into those sort of training programs as well.
Perfect, thank you. And there's a question regarding our future events. Will there be more conferences or more specialties that will be introduced? I think definitely we're planning a more sort of scientific event. We have not finalized anything about that yet, and we have not sort of advertised a date, but it's one of the two main events in the year that we wish to carry sort of annually, and definitely through our website you will find more about that. I think there will be a feedback form coming out as well after the attendance to this event, and if you do have suggestions about other specialties or other things you want to hear or help organize with us within the society, we'll definitely love to hear it, and we'll definitely help. And yeah, this is you know why we're here. We all need to benefit, and we all need to kind of share our wishes and needs. So definitely contact us. Another question, there's a couple of more, sorry. Do you think that an expert patient in his condition is a good idea or a pain in the neck? Anyone who wants to?
Again, this is a subject very, very close to my heart. So patient-centered care, this should be the way we all practice, regardless, absolutely regardless of what we do, what subspecialty we are and where we are. But in the UK, we're very proud that this is a very strong characteristic of the model of medicine we practice. And what is patient-centered care? Is providing care that is respectful of and responsive to individual patient preferences, needs and values, and ensuring that the patient values guide all the clinical decisions. And this is best done if the patient is empowered and knowledgeable enough about their disease as much as possible. And I talk as someone who treats patients with chronic disorders and knowing how important it is for my patients and how much more valuable the consultations are, how much more effective they are, both ways, both for the healthcare professionals who are looking after these patients, but also for the patients. The more empowered they are, the patients, and the more they know about the disease. And the societies, the patient societies, are doing a great job in this. The UK Thalassemia Society, the International Thalassemia Societies, the Sickle Cell Societies, the Diamond Blackfan Anemia Societies. I'm bringing these examples. These are examples of patient societies because I am directly involved and I'm aware of them as this is my area of expertise. But there are similar patient societies across all disciplines who are doing a great job in ensuring that our patients are empowered and able to collaborate with us and make common decisions and tailored to their needs. So absolutely yes, no pain in the neck. They are what we need to have, knowledgeable and strong voices.
Can I add to that? I fully agree with Perla, and because today's sessions were a lot focused on training, I think our more junior members and the medical students have to understand that the training is being changed based not just on what the health needs will be in the future, but on what patients are saying. And every QI and audit project that you will undertake, it's very important to also have the patient voice there. For my specialty, we've been struggling for years in order to make changes in the law. And it's only with the help of certain parents after certain tragic events where children have died from anaphylaxis is that we're finally getting changes into the law about listing ingredients onto foods and allergens. And Natasha's law came in about a year ago. Patients are extremely important what we will do in the future.
And even if you go on a governmental level, so if you want to convince NHS England about implementation of new procedures or new medications, you always have to have patient representatives on the panels. You know, for example, now we're trying as a group to bring in the commissioning of stem cell transplantation in adult sickle cell patients in England, which has not been funded so far. We needed to convince NHS England a group of sickle cell patients pushing for this as patient representatives. So patient voice is extremely important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more from my work with the CCG and transforming the health services as what the root. The basis of all changes is that what patients really need, and actually when you work alongside patients, either if they're young children, young people, families, you actually provide a service that they will respect better, and they will be more compliant. It's all for the best. And also usually the patients that come in and know more, or the difficult ones, those are the ones that you have to look in deeper and explore their ideas, their concerns, because there's something under there that's making them louder or making them fight more. So, and usually you find the actual issue.
Great, yeah, I mean, and just a final note from me as well. I mean, when we consider enrolling patients onto clinical trials as well, and oncology is very heavy with clinical trials of various phases. Having patient representatives and hearing their views and concerns about accepting to be enrolled on clinical trials is also very, very important. And we always learn a lot when we attend sessions with patient representatives and hear about patients themselves, and ultimately it's about educating our patients as well to come closer to us and understand a lot more about how we practice and how we make decisions. Great. And then, sorry, I think there's a final question here as well. There are lots of very competitive training paths in the UK, especially surgical. Do you think it's worth to do the extra work, research experience to follow this path in the UK, or look for training programs in other countries?
As a surgeon consultant, I will agree with that statement. It is difficult and it is competitive, as in all other specialties. The extra work is, you will need to make sacrifices. Whether it's worth it or not, that's a decision you make as you're going along down your career. I agree there's lots of other options in going to other countries. There is the option of going to the US or going to other European countries. Obviously, I think if you can do the research or if you can do the postgraduate degrees, I think you should do them. I think it will only make you a better doctor, a better clinician. You'll be able to apply an evidence-based approach in the management of your patients. And I think that will give you the equipment and improve your CV to apply for a training post in the UK. I still believe the training in the UK is probably the best in the world at the moment. And I think there is also a prestige and a pride of completing your training in the UK. So it's worth the sacrifices you make in the way. And I think if you can do research, if you can go get prizes and do publications, I think you should do it. But I agree, it is hard work and it does take sacrifice.
Thank you, Constantino. Sorry, and I've missed the final one as well. Especially in the light of the pandemic, where can we find opportunities for prizes, publications? So obviously, I would think that depends on the specific specialty that you're interested in, and there will be lots of, information on various websites in terms of prizes. I think in terms of publications, I think actually talking from my department, we became very, very busy during the COVID pandemic, and actually we had the opportunity to carry out a lot more other research around COVID, but also have the opportunity to finish off work that we were doing before the pandemic hit. I don't know if I can see lots of nodding, and I assume that the rest of you as well feel the same.
I concur 100%. I think, as I said to you before, don't let this pandemic, put you down. The pandemic has nothing to do with your education, with your passion, with your dreams. Just stay safe, take the necessary precautions, follow the governmental guidelines, but just follow your dream and do what you have to do. The publications have not stopped. The opportunities for prizes have not stopped. Work has not stopped. Schools have not stopped. Education continues for children and for us. And so don't you worry that there will be less opportunities. As Miria says, many more actually than ever before, and much easier to produce because you're not traveling, you're not commuting to go anywhere, you're just doing it from your laptop screen. So, and you're virtually meeting with others across the UK. So, without and internationally without having to waste any time.
I will agree with that as well. I fully agree with both of my colleagues. What I would like to add on, and just to go a bit more detail, I agree that lots of academics took this opportunity of the COVID pandemic to finish off lots of projects we started because we had extra time. So I agree. I think the number of publications and the number of submissions in journals has increased over the last 3-4 months. Being a journal reviewer, I have also seen an increase in the paper submissions. Now, if you want to start a new project, I think it would be difficult to do a laboratory project because many laboratories are slowing down. I think it would be difficult also to do a clinical project because the nurses involved in research at the moment are being taken away to do COVID-related research. Nevertheless, there's lots of data that you can do based on data analysis, metadata analysis, and even simple ideas. You can look at whether there's been any change in morbidity, mortality in your department since the COVID epidemic, and you compare. Simple ideas that you can collect the data, analyze the data, and publish. I still think there are opportunities out there, and I think you should take advantage of these opportunities. People applying for research grants over the last 10 months, or let's say 6 months, all the funding panels have slowed down, including the NIHR and the CRUK. They try to use the money to fund COVID-related projects. Nevertheless, everyone is starting again to fund other projects. So if you want to apply for a research grant, now is the time. People are starting allocating money again to other research projects, and opportunities will open up. And I think opportunities are there. And I think everyone has, you should take, although there is a pandemic, I think there's still opportunities out there that we should take advantage of.
Thank you, Costantino. Yeah, I mean, what you pointed out about funding, of course, is very, very important. Okay, so I think in terms of questions, we came to a close. Just representing the committee, I would like to thank all of the speakers for committing and delivering your talks today. I think we can all be very proud that we are a community of Cypriot doctors who work in the UK. And I just know that this is sort of an event that is just the beginning of what, of what the society and its members can do. Definitely thank you to everyone who attended, your questions and comments, and we hope that the next event will be a physical one. Would like to meet people in person. In the meantime, feel free to contact us through the Society's email. We want to hear your ideas. Anything that's career related, you can ask. And just finally, we'll be sending a feedback survey as well. We'll be very grateful if you can complete that and send us your comments. So all the best, enjoy the rest of the Sunday, and yeah, keep safe. Thank you.